Each language is a composition of cultures and layers of history upon each other that created a common speech. And I want to show you across Europe the great mosaic of these languages, each one in one sentence. Now, I wouldn't be able to say every European language because there's a lot of small ones. And take this with a pinch of salt, because if I'm compressing a language into one sentence, it's probably going to be a bit funny sometimes, right? So no keyboard warriors. This is Ben Llewellyn. Let's get started. Portuguese is Latin spoken by Celts with prehistoric and Arabic sprinkles. Spanish is Latin spoken by Basques with Arabic sprinkles. Basque is the last native European language, with lots of Latin, French, and Spanish sprinkles. Catalan is the bridge between Spanish, French, and Italian. French is Latin spoken by several different Germanic nations, and then united as one language by decapitating everyone who knew how to speak properly. Breton is British, spoken whilst being held hostage by the French. Cornish is an 18th century British speaker who knew quite a bit of Saxon and French, brought back to life with memory loss. Welsh is what happened when Roman soldiers and British princesses had babies, with French and then English sprinkles. Irish is Celtic, spoken by whoever was there before, something between British and Basque, with Latin sprinkles and then a lump of English. Manx is Irish, spoken by Vikings. Scots Gaelic is Irish, spoken by Picts, who spoke British without Latin. English is when Welsh-speaking Britons became Germanic peasants, ruled over by French snobs and psychopaths, with Viking sprinkles. Icelandic is when Vikings discovered electricity without Latin or Greek. Czech is when a people are not quite Polish, but ruled off and on by Germans, who decide to get rid of their German words and make up words. German is when West Germanic speakers are caught between everyone else in Europe and so fixated on rules that they're unable to put one dialect in charge, nor are they sure which dialect is even to be considered German. Danish are the Vikings who settled in towns and got a bit wealthy, with German sprinkles. Swedish is the Vikings, who had a bit of an aristocratic flair, with French sprinkles. Norwegian is the Vikings who went up to the mountains and could understand the others best, but did not really want to speak to them. Lithuanian is Indo-European, with as few changes as you could possibly hope for, and our best bridge between India and Europe, with Polish sprinkles. Luxembourgish is West Central German with its own state, and then argued over by French and Dutch for a while. Dutch is West Germanic speakers who are not so fussed about all those rules, whilst living and drowning below sea level underwater, with French sprinkles. Polish is Slavic, spoken by Baltics, with a big lump of Latin, and then German sprinkles. Slovak is like an older version of Czech who didn't want to join up with all these 19th century innovations, and yet a bit simplified in some cases. Latvian is like Lithuanian with a lot more German influence, with Russian and Finnic sprinkles. Estonian is Finnic with a massive amount of German influence, 25%. Just to note on Latvia and Estonia there, the German-speaking Teutonic Order conquered them in the 13th century, and it was horrifying. Finnish is Finnic spoken by Finns, with Swedish sweet biscuits, and an obsession with making up their own words from parts of their own language. Russian is Slavic, spoken by Finno-Uralic and Turkic peasants, ruled by Vikings, who then adopted Greek and later French as the prestige language. Belarussian is Slavic, quite close to Ukrainian, but with an underlayer of Lithuanian, and then later Polish from above, and now being diluted by Russian, in a way that Ukrainian is not. Ukrainian is Slavic peasants mixing with ecclesiastical Slavonic and Greek, forced to speak Russian for a while, with Yiddish and Polish sprinkles. Romanian is Latin spoken by Dacian with a big lump of Slavic and Turkish delights. Bulgarian is Slavic spoken by Turkic nomads who did not have time for complicated grammar, and then they took random lumps of Latin, French, and Russian with Turkish sprinkles. Macedonian is mutually intelligible with Bulgarian and Serbo-Croatian, and is kind of squished between the two on a spectrum. Serbo-Croatian is a dialect continuum of 4 Slavic groups. Croatian, influenced by Roman Catholicism and bits of Italian. Bosnian, influenced by Islam and a slight bit of Turkish and Arabic, more than the others. Serbian, more by Eastern Orthodox and a bit of Greek, with Montenegrin, similar to Serbian but a bit more Latin and Albanian influence. Slovenian is Slavic peasants, ruled over by Germans for 500 years, and then flavored with Italian. Greek is spoken by Greeks, and has a lot of Latin and Turkish left over by the Romans and Turks, who conquered them, and is not the same language as ancient Greek. Albanian is what happened when shepherds, who spoke something between Greek and Lithuanian, were conquered by Rome and ruled over them for 600 years, but they hid up in the mountains and survived. Hungarian. Hungarian is Western Siberians who went on holiday to Central Europe and have stayed for 1,000 years. And just look at this. This is where their words come from. 30%. We don't even know what 30% of their language is. So I'll just leave that on the screen for a moment. Corsican is like Italian's little brother who was kidnapped by French for the last 250 years. Italian is a dozen or so vulgar Latin languages squished together and saying, we will unify ourselves with this cookbook, with German sprinkles. If you like this video, please tap the like and subscribe, and a special thanks to my Patreons on the screen.